Welcome back, guys. Hopefully my little prop caught your attention and got you here. I found this at a thrift store long time ago, and I've held on to it ever since. I thought it was pretty darn cool, and it is very pertinent to today's content. So after years of composting, compost heating, I've done this for years now. So I wanted to share my insight and thoughts, pros and cons to composting inside the greenhouse and whether we really should be or not. So if that sounds interesting to you, please consider subscribing to the channel, smash that like button, share this content, share our channel with anybody you might think is interested in this stuff. So first off, we've built tons of mini Jean Pain heaters inside the greenhouse way down at the other end where our overflow tank is for our large Jean Pain heater. And we have noticed that as soon as we got that pile active and it started to warm up, we saw lots and lots of pest activity. Now, it is going to be almost impossible to keep them out. Even if you have it in a tumbler or in a large bin in the middle of your greenhouse, you're still going to have a ton of activity. There's no way around it. So if people say that there is no rodent activity on their huge compost pile inside their greenhouse, they're probably lying. But I will say that we did experiment with it for almost a whole winter, building small Jean Pain piles inside the greenhouse, and we used the piles to transfer heat to water and to air inside the greenhouse. It did us pretty well. We were able to get some heat off of that pile, but the negative impact of the rodents, shrews, voles, mice, rats, anything, all of those critters love the food, the heat, the water, and the shelter. This is the perfect place for them, and when you build a nice warm compost pile, they're gonna go right to it, and then they're gonna go look for your food to eat. So as soon as you build that hot compost pile inside your greenhouse, you're going to have skyrocketing rodent activity. They're gonna be eating your crops, they're gonna be leaving fecal matter and waste all over your crops and all over your stuff, and then they're going to be eating wires and all types of stuff. So we have had super minimal activity inside the greenhouse this year. We caught maybe half a dozen over the entire fall period, and that's when they really ramp up and start running in from the cornfields and stuff. So half a dozen mice caught, little tiny mice too, not rats or anything crazy, but we did catch about half a dozen this fall. So they are coming in, they're always going to, but why give them another reason to come in droves? Keep that compost outside the greenhouse. Another main reason why we don't compost in the greenhouse is because of all the gases given off. You're gonna create carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and hydrogen sulfide. All of those are pretty darn toxic if we're breathing them in. So if you've got a sealed greenhouse in the winter time and you've got a hot compost pile inside, it's continually throwing all of those gases off. So when you come in, you might not get gassed out and pass out right away, but you are poisoning yourself and you're hurting your lungs, and it's not good for you. So take my suggestion and please keep those compost piles outside the greenhouse. Now there's a huge difference between using finished compost or building a hotbed, and even with a hotbed, we tried that in our small greenhouse and the voles kept digging underneath it, killing the roots, killing the crops. They're searching for the roots or the worms and stuff underneath it. It's just hard to keep all of those pests out. So instead of putting any compost in the greenhouse, we keep it outside. We've got our large 9-ton pile only drawing heat. Our non-perforated tubing is only transferring heat and air. We're blowing air from inside, heating it up, and blowing the same exact air in without exchanging any gases to the greenhouse. So if you've got a large enough compost pile that's going to heat your greenhouse, which you're going to need a decent sized pile to keep a burn for 2 weeks or longer, depending on how much cubic feet of air you have in your greenhouse, you could really be gassing yourself out. Like I said, you might not pass out, but you're gonna suffer some negative impacts, respiratory impacts. So when we experimented with this, maybe using a cubic yard or 2 cubic yards at a time, compost in the corner down there, and we've got tons of videos showing that through an entire winter, but I could smell it, I could basically feel it. I knew that we were breathing in and creating a lot of CO2. Now CO2 is good for your plants, but methane, nitrous oxide, hydrogen sulfide, that stuff's not good. So the benefit of having CO2 coming into your greenhouse, I'm just gonna come out here and breathe and hang out for a while and open up the doors and vent it. So in winter time, you have the doors closed basically 24/7. It's hard to vent because when it's negative outside, you're not gonna open your doors and exchange air with outside. So you're basically building all of that up you can have CO2 build up because it is heavier, and it is going to fill up in the greenhouse. So in all, the benefit of having compost inside the greenhouse, if it's not completely finished and being used for nutrients on top dressings and on the soil, in the soil, I wouldn't do it. Like I said, we've been doing this for a number of years now, and there's a reason my pile is outside, because I needed a huge pile to last the winter, and I don't want to breathe all of that garbage in. I don't want to breathe in CO2, methane, hydrogen sulfide, and nitrous oxide, and minimal other things. There's lots of stuff that comes off of it that is potentially harmful to us. So I really just wanted to get this out there, because I've seen a lot of videos where people have a massive compost pile, they're building a huge hotbed inside the greenhouse. That is not healthy for you, so I would suggest not doing it. And you may notice some long-term health effects, so I don't want to deal with anything like that, and I'm sure anybody else would not want to deal with long-term health effects like asthma or some type of rare disease from having all of this stuff and you're breathing it inside your greenhouse over and over. I really just wanted to share that with everybody, get my 2 cents out there. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. We really like to share all of our compost heating. I just kind of wanted to dispel some of the things that people are doing and sharing on